we're going to have to read all of your questions manually, but we'll still answer them. No worries. Okay, can I have the written question that we had earlier, Biddy?
Sure. Uh,
Okay, can I have the
this one's
written
from
question?
Lehman. This is I know Laguna Games is building or has a plan to build other games. Is there a plan to integrate other future Laguna games into one big metaverse? Are all games interlinked together?
Yeah, it's a great question. I hesitate because it's hard to think about the next game, which will be Gods of Olympus, while we're still trying to kind of ship crypto unicorns. So I think our full and complete focus will remain on the crypto unicorns project, probably throughout the remainder of this year, outside of maybe a little bit of concept work on on Gods of Olympus. I think when we do get to the point that we are ready to kind of launch our second game DAO, we are going to actively consider ways to bridge the CU community into that game. I am a big believer in the composability of assets in the space, and we've seen really very little of that. The interoperability promise remains largely kind of untapped. And so, yeah, I mean, finding ways to bring those two IPs together would be of interest. I don't have any specific ideas at this time, but I wouldn't want to leave behind community members who would be genuinely interested in playing the new title and things. So it is something that we're actively going to focus on.
All right, thank you so much for that answer. Questions over at Twitch yet? But let's have another written question from Discord.
Okay, we have one from Not Master Mirror. Where would Aaron and Laguna Games like the total unicorn NFT population to be by July? Or how about a total population by ShadowCon launch?
By the time Shadowcorns launch, definitely in the hundreds of thousands. July is an interesting question. Let me look. Getting all the hidden alpha here. By July, we want to be well on our way to 90,000 is what I'll say. Well on our way to 90,000 by July for sure. Obviously, there's a number of constraints on that, having enough nurseries, having enough unim, and there's certainly ways to make that more or less aggressive. And again, we're, I think, one of the economies launching that have the strongest ability to tune and balance based on the number of levers, sinks and sources within the economy. And so it's going to be an active and almost daily design challenge to kind of react to player behavior on that front. But generally, as close to 90,000 as possible by July and in the hundreds of thousands by the time Shadowcorns are launching.
All right. Okay, people from Twitch, chat, you can definitely ask questions. We're looking, and if anybody has any short questions that they want to ask on Twitch, we're very open to it. But you can also ask questions on the AMA Questions channel on Discord, okay? Let's have another written question.
Okay, we have one from Kaiser. Are there plans for the team to pump more unim to reach that 90k unicorns for month one, or the 90k target is already changed? Please share your thoughts about this information.
Can you please repeat the question?
Okay. Um, are there plans for the team to pump more unim to reach that 90k unicorns for month one, or the 90k target is already changed?
We have plans in place to distribute enough unim and other materials to make that happen as quickly as possible. the 90,000 goal was something that I threw out very early on as a just general first goal for the community, and we do want that to happen rather quickly. It doesn't need to necessarily happen in a month and, or everything's screwed, right? I mean, it's not like a make or break moment for the game economy. It's more a factor of wanting to get to the point in which more land is necessary, and we have unicorns available for players beyond just current landholders, because our expectation is landholders will want 3 corns or so per plot of land, and that's why we kind of have that 90K total number, which of course includes the 10K Genesis corns. And part of this goes into the whole Dark Forest reopening debacle and flip-flop that I'll take all the blame for, as I've stated many times. And the decision ultimately was we have plenty of opportunities in game to distribute what we need to distribute. That will ensure it goes to actual and kind of committed players via a series of mechanisms. So generally, I feel pretty confident in our ability to balance things in the early days of the game.
All right. Let's have the next question.
Okay, this one's from Gibson. I wonder if there will be a guild system when the game goes live.
Not when the game goes live. NFT delegation is a priority feature post-game launch that will give you the ability to delegate an NFT to another address. That address does not control that NFT or claim ownership over that NFT. And it will allow you to also set a kind of like fixed split, and that will distribute, between scholar and manager based on whatever that rate is. And so the scholar would kind of accept that delegation or deny that delegation. And the system generally should be very similar to Decentral Games Ice Poker, and should very much take a lot of the management hassle and some of the trust that's baked into current systems.
All right. So right now we're actually trying to work on getting questions with questions on top of them, because people seem to be more comfortable asking those questions via voice. So if you guys want to ask a lot of questions or questions with follow-ups, feel free to message me or Witty Unicorn, and we can get your follow-up questions queued, okay?
Sounds like I need to reach out to Jason Citron, the founder of Discord. Not a lot of people know, but he did a thing called Hammer and Chisel. It was actually a game company before he pivoted. Prior to that, he did a thing called OpenFaint, which was an early mobile social network. I actually met him many times at a space. I'm going to hit him up on Twitter and tell him to fix his damn Discord. Shit, let's just do this live. I'll take the next question while I poke the founder of Discord on Twitch. I mean on Twitter.
That entire sentence sounds like a meme. All right, so let's have the next question ready.
Okay, this one's from Augusta. Yesterday was the Axie Infinity Lawns AMA. Most of the investors were unhappy about it. What's your ideas or opinion as a game developer?
Games are fucking tough, I guess is where you need to start. It is a very, very hard software product to build. And then we keep joking internally. It's like games are hard enough, and then we're adding an open economy and managing and balancing an open economy on top, which exponentially increases the difficulty. And then, with us in the launch of governance, like we're starting a government. And so it's kind of an insane challenge that, anyone in the space is kind of taking on. I look at some of the struggles that Sky Mavis team is going through, and it does appear as though they're stuck between a rock and a hard place, where it does take a long time to build and release and launch features, especially as game devs that aren't sitting on a very robust tech stack. I mean, one of the reasons we've been able to execute so quickly has just been our history as a team together and the technical platform that we're kind of building on. That we've even licensed to other game developers who have been building and are currently building games and experiences on. And so I get why people are frustrated. It's why I popped into the space yesterday to just kind of hear some of the opinions on both sides. And I think expectation setting is super important in the current industry. And I think a lot of people purchased NFTs with certain expectations that are definitely not being met right now. And that's something that we're very cognizant of. It's one of the reasons that I canceled the governance proposal stuff for reopening the dark forest, because I just believe the highest priority for us right now is to ship and to get a game live and an economy truly live. And so just kind of connect that back into the dark forest debacle. And so again, I'm not going to say anything bad about a project in the space. There's plenty of room for multiple multi-billion-dollar economies to be built here in the next 5 years. And I kind of wish them all the best. But I get it. They're in a very, very tough spot where their growth in some ways, just astronomical growth last year, set them up in a really, really tough way. It meant they had to continue to ship features at a very, very rapid pace. And so far, it seems like they've been struggling on that front. So anyway, it's a lesson in expectation management. It's something that we are taking very kind of seriously on our side. And I mean, I do think represents a pretty good opportunity for all of us if we can successfully, not only successfully ship, but get this game growing and onboard more and more players, because we definitely took a different approach with Land. It was one of the first major changes that I think we made relative to other projects in the space, which was this idea of, we're going to sell you these individual land dioramas that you piece together in the sandbox. And with the release of Neighborhoods, you actually piece them together with your friends, your guildmates, etc. And like that decision to not try and build a structured, master world map from the beginning, I think was a really good idea. And I'm very happy to hear other projects. Founder of Crypto Raiders gave us a nice shout out on Twitter about our kind of land system design, and mentioned that they were potentially going to go in that direction as well. And I was happy to hear that. We're obviously huge fans of that project. The mobs, Crypto Raider mobs, obviously directly inspired Shadowcorns. And so I thought that was really cool. So yeah, the whole land thing, I woke up this morning to a whole bunch of back and forth on Twitter. I haven't really followed all the way to the source, but apparently Dave versus Axie gave us a shout out or something, and everybody's pissed on the Axie front, and there was FUD, and I don't even know. It seems like a huge mess. And I will say, I feel for the team. They're human beings, they're people. This is a very crazy space, and the expectations are high, and in many cases should be, because they've raised enormous sums of money, and people have purchased assets, and have expectations, and they, deserve to see those expectations delivered. So sorry, that's a little bit of a rant. I definitely think that, we want to see other projects succeed in the space. And so I wish that, the Sky Mavis team kind of all the best. We're going to stay razor focused on ship and launch, and then obviously the growth phase of our economy development. And I think that sets us up to be in a really great position over the course of this year. And again, I do want to compete, and I do want to win in this space. We want to be, the number one project. I think that's a 6 to 18 month path for us. And there's going to be a lot of work on behalf of the team, on behalf of the community, and onboarding and on-ramping new players into the ecosystem. But to be the number one project in the space would be huge. And I'll say this too, not just the number one gaming project. I think the profile pick projects are the softest target in the space. Many of them are not game developers at all. It will be very, very hard for them to pivot into being game developers. And so if I really put the aspiration out there that, we end up being the number one NFT project in the next few years, and I think it will take years to get there, but myself and the team, we're very much committed to doing that. This is our first big win as a collective team, and we keep talking about it internally. The opportunity ahead is probably the biggest we will see in our lifetimes. It's so hard to put all of the pieces together and get something to a state where you have an opportunity like we do collectively. And so anyway, it's been an interesting week in NFT land. I'm sure next week will be even more interesting. That's what keeps it exciting and fun.
Yeah, definitely agreed. Okay, so I just have a short announcement. Have you been hearing about all of our cool Discord events, but somehow you can't access them? That's because access is for those with a community corn role, members of the community that have proven themselves to be active in the server. To be a community corn, just continue being active in general chat or your language channel of choice. No spam, please. We're watching. All right, next up we have Rubik in our backup AMA venue. He's here to ask a voice question. Go ahead, Rubik.
I'm getting double feedback here. I have to shut my Twitch down for a second. Can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you. Yeah, please mute your Twitch first.
There we go. You got me by a bit of a surprise. Can I do that quickly? That 10 power questions, which take like about 2 minutes.
Yeah.
It's the Uncle Azza fan club questions.
Oh God.
So you like to do your monologues. You've got like 1 sentence max to answer them.
Yep.
How long you been building games?
Since 2009, when I started my first gaming company at 19.
Wow. How many games you built?
Crypto Unicorns is now the 9th title that I've released, that I've actually released. So yeah, so 9 now.
Wow. Your best achievement, in your opinion, in your games development career?
Honestly, to have gotten an Apple Game of the Week and Editor's Choice back in the day when that still mattered, at my first company for a title called Lumi, which people can look up. There's still some YouTube videos of it. It was like a Sonic meets Mario. I was very, very proud of that. I think I was 20. I don't think I was 21 yet. Because, yeah, we had a studio in Australia. I could go out to Australia and drink. I couldn't drink in the United States yet. So I remember that. But yeah, that Apple Game of the Week and Editor's Choice was something that was just awesome, because that came, very early in my career, and yeah, very proud of that.
This might be an obvious question, but are you a gamer? Do you play games still, and have you played games your whole life?
For sure. I still play a lot of FPS games, playing Call of Duty. Recently, my wife drugged me into Fortnite, but I can play it with no build, so I've been doing that. And then, yeah, strategy games like Alpha Centauri, Sid Meier's Alpha Centauri and stuff is one of the first games I ever fell in love with. And the Civilization games, StarCraft, the Warhammer series, Warcraft, all of those games have kind of made a huge impact on me, for sure.
If you can only pick one, what's your favorite game of all time? Tough question.
Probably Sid Meier's Alpha Centauri. That was the first game I just truly fell in love with and obsessed about endlessly. So yeah, strategy all the way.
1 more turn. What was your source of inspiration for CU? So I'm asking hard questions.
I thought that unicorns would just be a phenomenal overlap with the crypto space. You got Vitalik rocking unicorn t-shirts at conferences going all the way back to the early days of Ethereum. So it just felt like a really good fit, and something that I wanted an IP that we could just do anything with. And they're unicorns. They can fucking do anything, right? So that was a large part of the inspiration behind it.
Okay, 4 really one-word answers. Unum or RBW?
RBW.
Unicorn or Shadowcorn?
Oh, man. I'm going to go with unicorn. That's a tough one for me. Because I've seen some of the Shadowcorn concept art.
Jousting or racing?
Jousting, because I kind of like the tournament style.
DeFi or gameplay?
Gameplay, always.
Are we still on track for the 2nd of May?
We are.
Who's more excited for the game, you or the community?
I would say our engineering team. They are so fucking ready to ship this thing. They have been absolutely crushing it. We very much all appreciate the love in Discord, by the way. That's always a good part of everyone's day to go in there and see that, especially on the tough days. But I would say the engineering team is probably the most excited to get this thing live.
Are you a coder? Do you code as well? You
Nope.
started at a young age.
Yeah, no, I've always been the non-technical founder. So I've always had to find a technical counterpart. And really, actually, my co-founder, Steven Garcia, who obviously co-founded Laguna with me, he's kind of been the missing piece that I've needed all along, I think, as an entrepreneur.
Yeah, you seem to know a lot about the technical side. I'm quite surprised by that answer, to be honest with you. And last question is, what's your favorite ice cream flavor?
This one's going to be controversial. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Pistachio.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe what's your favorite unicorn class? That'll be the last question.
Cloud. Team Cloud. Team Cloud, followed by Moon. Cloud and Moon.
Oh, well, there's the fan club started. Thanks for that, Aaron. Appreciate your time, mate.
Yeah, I appreciate you coming up here, man.
All right, thank you so much. So that was Rubik representing the Uncle Az fan club from Australia. That unicorn answer definitely pumped up the hopes of Team Unicorn. By the way, we're on the final week of the Capture the Land event. Will Team Shadowcorns win the series in a clean sweep, or is Team Unicorn going to make a hero's comeback? Only the community can decide. Take note that only members of the community corn roll can participate in the Discord event. Okay, thank you so much, Rebecca. If anybody else wants to ask a voiced question, just send me a message. All right, can we have a written question for now?
Sure, we have one from Longy. There's a Twitter event where the prize is 3 Genesis eggs. Is this on top of the original 10k eggs, or did the project team keep some? Will there be more events like this before launch where not asset holders get the chance to win land or unicorns?
Yeah, between the Genesis Mint and we bought eggs on secondary. I mean, that's what's fucking crazy is like, you could get eggs pretty cheap right after the mint. We ended up buying, I think, about 20 eggs for giveaways, and we plan to give away all of them in the lead up to the game to get them in the hands of community members. So I know we're starting to run low. I don't know what the exact count of eggs remaining is. Anyone watching the contracts really, really closely around the mint, the first 1, 2, and 3 were minted. Those were minted as a test because we were flying a bit blind and wanted to confirm that shit worked. Those 1, 2, and 3, eggs 1, 2, and 3 will be given out via likely tournaments in game later. But outside of those 3, the other ones we purchased on the secondary, obviously all of them come from the 10K mint.
All right. Let's have another written question.
Okay, this one's from Choax. Do we have any info about the 1:1 unicorns like the vampire, cream, sushi, and etc.?
Yeah, the one of ones we're still finalizing generally. I think I'm trying to figure out the right mix of, and this is actually interesting because I would like to solicit some feedback from the community, right? The one of ones were intended, obviously there's just 99 of these. They would be adults to start, and they're mostly interesting from the perspective of being completely unique, right? But the joke was the commercialization process made them sterile, right? And so we've been talking with, Snoop's team, Deadmau5, Diplo, and a few other creators and brands around doing partnerships around these limited one of ones. But again, finding ways to make them, have utility in the game when they can't breed is something that is causing us to hesitate a little bit. And I'm, trying to decide, do we give them evolutionary tiers that you can kind of grind out, or are people just happy having something that is like the only version of this one thing in the entire game, and you're happy to just show it off on the farm and obviously utilize it in those loops, because we don't want these things to just be OP, right? That would break the grind to get mythics and the breeding and the kind of evolutionary things. So the one of ones, we do continue to concept from the art side. We do plan to release them. Obviously, we still owe Noah his one of one from that awesome content creator contest we ran over Halloween. But just trying to take an extra pass on the design front to figure out the kind of best way to integrate them within the game itself. I'm kind of the mind that, like, listen, there's only 99 of these things. It will be fun and exciting to hold one, and especially if it's a brand that you kind of resonate with and you can show off. But anyway, yeah, I'd be curious. Anyone in dev discussion or Ask the Devs has a comment on whether or not to really strive to integrate them in from a stats perspective, or just let them be one of ones and unique and something you show off on your farm. I'd be really interested in hearing the community's opinion on that. Great question. Thank you for asking it.
Amazing. I have a follow-up question to that. How do you feel about like high-end luxury fashion collaborations like Louis Vuitton with League of Legends? And I think Vivienne Westwood had one with Final Fantasy 15. Do you think that would be a thing for crypto unicorns if ever?
Definitely. I've been trying to get in touch with Supreme because I just think that would be fucking hilarious to have a Supreme unicorn. I mean, it's a perfect fit. I mean, Supreme's basically selling fucking IRL NFTs to people. So I've always thought that would be funny. Yes. So high fashion for sure, I think, is a great collaboration. I think we want to look for brands that will help obviously bring overall awareness to crypto unicorns. And we're trying to pick partners where it's like, why don't you auction off for charity your one of one, right? And trying to find, partners that, obviously see the future here and want to kind of make their mark. So yeah, definitely excited there. I mean, a Nike one would be huge. Obviously, they've gone heavy into the NFT space. So yeah, we're very interested in the fashion brands.
Nice. That sounds super exciting. A Supreme corn, a Nike corn. Yeah, if anybody from Supreme or Nike is listening, you know who to contact.
Yeah, exactly. If anyone has an aunt or an uncle that works with one of those places, hit me up.
Please. Okay. Have you checked out our governance hub have you checked out our governance hub over at forum.cryptounicorns.fun? If you have, chances are that you've met DiscoBot. He's our resident robot over at the governance hub. He's helpful, he's funny, but he also gets lonely. How about you pay DiscoBot a visit and be friends with him? Friendship is magic, Unicorn Gang, and it might even lead to a loot box reward. For more details about the Friendship is Magic raffle event, check out our links in the event bulletin channel. All right, let's have another written question.
Sure, it's from OX Chrome. Are you planning to stay on Polygon or start your own layer 2 and offer node validators to the public in the future to accommodate future games and or products of Laguna Games?
It's definitely something. It's one of the reasons we chose Polygon, was the optionality over time to move to Polygon Edge, which would basically is a way you can create a proof of stake or proof of authority sidechain to the Polygon network. Again, Polygon is really the Cosmos SDK built on top of Ethereum instead of a competitive L1. So that functionality to kind of build an application-specific sidechain has actually always existed. The Ronin bridge hack certainly gives us pause. I mean, that's just taking on even more management and complexity. We would probably never do proof of authority. We would probably do proof of stake. But again, operating a game, an open economy, a government, and your blockchain infrastructure, is a bit scary. And I think long term, I believe more in the path, the ZK rollup future, right? In particular, the EVM compatible ZK rollups. So Polygon has a number of initiatives on that front. There's also groups like ZK Sync and others that are really pushing for true EVM compatibility with ZK rollups. And I think just generally betting on open ecosystems, like I think we naturally get some benefit from the fact that there are many games on Polygon, right? And you can immediately move to a DEX and stuff. An application-specific sidechain would put us behind a bridge. Bridges are risky. Bridges need a lot of work to be fully secure, likely ZK tech to be fully secure and trustless. And so I think for now, the plan is probably to stay on Polygon and migrate to the, to an EVM compatible ZK rollup. Which in and of itself, you'll see a lot of applications migrate to that rollup. And so it'll be much more of kind of an open ecosystem. I just think that is probably the right way to go versus every single game, or even like Laguna running a sidechain and having multiple games kind of built on top of it. Yes, there's stuff that's kind of attractive from that perspective, but I'm not sure that that is the right way to go about it. And definitely the Ronin hack gives us pause, because you continue to like exponentially increase the challenge of securing and managing and maintaining that infrastructure. And I would rather outsource that to the existing Polygon network for sure, at least as of right now. But that's a great question.
All right, so we figured out from the previous questions what Aaron's favorite unicorn and land class is. But what's your favorite unicorn? And is it the best? Prove it in our latest Twitter event, #Hustle. Check out the events bulletin channel for links to details and mechanics about the game. Can we have the next question?
Okay, Nakagada has one. How do you see the mythic importance in the beginning of the game and later on?
Yeah, early on, mythics, obviously the farm doesn't care about the stats of a unicorn currently. And so, a mythic is going to be similar to any unicorn that you utilize. Obviously, you'll want to class match and, double down on adjacency bonuses and all of that kind of stuff. Obviously, mythics become a lot more important when the battle loops launch. And so early on, I see a desire for people to start breeding, trying to get more triple mythics, trying to get to quad, epic, and legendary, mythics, which are possible. They will take a very long time and really very active efforts on the breeding front to pull off. So I see that being exciting in the same way that people were excited to, breed, Axies in the early days and kind of CryptoKitties. Of course, in Axie, my understanding is you can't really breed a mythic, which I think was a mistake. So anyway, obviously mythics tend to have higher stats, and over time, with the production of more and more mythics, I would expect a large chunk of them to go up into the battle loops and be, be competitive. So I think their utility over time certainly grows. Obviously, supply will grow along with that. We're kind of excited to see how that plays out and see how people start to figure out, I should say, see how people figure out, what the optimal kind of mythic bloodlines end up being.
All right. By the way, just before this AMA, GlowDAO hosted a Twitter Spaces AMA with Aaron. A representative from GlowDAO, YM Dang, translated the AMA from English to Chinese. You can check our community update post about it to see the replay. Can we have the next question, please?
Hey, just in time for Kai's question. I just came from the Chinese AMA area. I didn't have time to ask the question. Shadowcorn's eggs are the story of the fourth quarter, but they were born very early and lasted for nearly a year. Are they really not designing some game use cases for them? This makes Shadowcorn's holder feel anxious too.
So to address the anxious piece, and this is probably going to piss some people off, but I would like to think patience has been rewarded many times within our community. And the first example of that was the surprise release of the Dark Forest, which obviously rewarded people who'd held corns and been patient. I believe a little bit in the social experiment around making people wait in a world in which people when I say world, I mean kind of the NFT space in general, has bred this class of person who is just like incredibly impatient because they've seen, these kind of ridiculous things happen around them just being slightly early to a mint, and there being way less supply than demand, and price naturally rises. And so I'm going to actively, to a certain extent, force people to be patient. And if you're unwilling to do so, I wish you all the best. That is one of the beauties of a permissionless economy. The question, though, I think was a little incorrect because we're doing stuff well before Q4. Obviously, in Q2, you're going to be able to hatch your shadow corn, see what you got, see what class, etc. And then in Q3, we're running a shadow corn only mini game on chain, which will lead up to the Act 2 of the Dark Forest, which will pit shadow corns against the unicorns in the forest as another kind of on-chain mini game. And setting aside development time, it's actually very important that we have enough unicorns bred so that we can actually play that game and keep farming. Like, I think people really still today don't understand how many unicorns are going to be necessary, especially as more land comes online, jousting and racing, and now we've got this Dark Forest Act 2 coming. And so we actually need time to produce enough supply to even play all the things. So anyway, I appreciate the question. I think generally there's a lot of stuff happening with shadow corns over the course of the year. Anyone seeking yield or utility and wants it now, you're going to be disappointed. And I highly recommend you pass your egg to someone who's willing to be more patient on that front.
All right, thank you so much. Let's get the next question.
Okay, this is actually a follow-up question.
Okay.
Since there would be 99 1:1 corns that you're planning, other than brands, would you be open to having a part of it be decided by the community, like a design contest wherein the members of the community would submit their design and have the community vote on the entries as well?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, we did that off chain with the Halloween contest. And shout out again to Noen, who won that competition with a really kick-ass design. And so, yes, I was kind of thinking early on that roughly a third to a quarter of the 99 would be kind of reserved for basically take fan art and make a custom kind of unicorn off that. So yes, we'd be very, very excited to do that. It might be cool to even run that all the way up through governance, versus kind of like a Discord poll and stuff. So yeah, that's definitely in the cards.
All right, perfect. Okay, how many questions more do you have, Biddy? Do you have a lot more questions?
Around 3?
Okay, let's try to knock them out. I'm going to see if there's anybody who wants to speak to us directly. All right, let's have the next question.
Okay. Do you think there will be another RBW airdrop for landowners?
No, not an airdrop. Landowners received over 50% of the community airdrop kind of in the first place, based on holding behavior. I think I've said this. Yeah, I have said this before. Landowners will be getting some surprises. And again, for their patience, they had to sit while everyone else went into the dark forest if you didn't have corns, right? So I totally understand that sentiment. Keep in mind, land is literally like the crux of our gameplay that we're launching first. So, but airdrop wise, we're pretty much done on that front. But there are mechanisms once the game launches for rewarding, in particular, landowners. So I am very excited about that. I do keep teasing that there's a surprise on that front. And it will be tied to something in game to obviously ensure people who are playing the game and upgrading their land and things of that nature are getting the rewards versus passive collectors or speculators, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. All right, let's have the next question.
Okay, could you talk more about the RPG aspects and what this would look like and what could we expect?
Yeah, so the team RPG, the original design, it's actually a template from Gods of Olympus. So in the concepting phase with Gods of Olympus, we like put together a team RPG 5v5 system and began like, we call it paper prototyping, but it was really pretty sophisticated because we had all the underlying stats and data, and we're actually like running calculations to determine outcomes. And we got to a point where we felt like that would be a pretty exciting kind of game loop. So placement on the board, positioning really matter in addition to the composition of your party and things like class synergies and multipliers and things like that. So had a little bit of an auto chess vibe to it. I think more recently we've begun looking at slight alternatives for a gameplay mechanic. I think with Team RPG, we want to be certain that there's a very high skill curve. I think that's incredibly important to the overall structure of our game. Obviously, jousting's pretty RNG heavy, racing a little bit more skill, still some RNG. And Team RPG should really be predominantly skill-based. As always, there's a splash of luck in any good game, but we really want it to be something that rewards people who are skillful. And so I say all that to say there is this alternative that we've been looking at, which is more of a match 3 team RPG in the similar vein to Puzzles and Dragons, which was an enormously successful mobile game that had a very specific match 3 mechanic that actually enabled a pretty damn high skill curve because you could kind of drag a gem across the entirety of the board to kind of reset it for an optimal config. But you had to do that very quickly, and you had to do that in a certain order and direction to kind of maximally optimize a position, right? And you throw in hero abilities and stuff on top of that. I think it would be really interesting, and I think that it's a decent fit for for the platform and not the platform, for the IP and kind of where we're at. But this is something that will likely run through a governance proposal. I think it's a really great example of allowing the community to weigh in on, two mechanic choices. And I think how we'd go about that is putting together a proposal that would probably link to some Notion docs that showcases each side, and we do some debate to see what feels more interesting. But to me, that's one of the powers of the space that I think a lot of developers are fearful about. But again, I think letting the community weigh in on roadmap prioritization and decisions is one of the great ways to like solicit feedback and ensure that it's just such an active customer discovery process that really hasn't been possible without kind of the incentive alignment that's occurred when people are holding governance tokens. So anyway, that's kind of my thoughts on the team RPG piece and really what we're striving for. And I think either version is probably going to be awesome. But yeah, still some question on which one to do. And the great thing is we could do both over time, right? But which one to do first? And I think that's still very much up for debate.
Yeah,
All
definitely.
right.
And if the community has, wants to say something about it, you could always go over to forum.cryptounicorns.fun and let us know about your thoughts.
Okay, so we do have the last question for tonight. Would there be a test phase specifically for gamers outside crypto unicorns?
For future battle loops, in particular Team RPG, we might actually run some focus group kind of play testing. When they say groups outside of crypto unicorns, that piece I'm like, I would probably want people who are, have been members of the community and have expressed interest in, obviously supporting those kind of testing focus group play testing efforts. I definitely think in the future that's something that we should do and is a way to help us, launch really slick products that the community's already kind of bought into because they helped in the development process and kind of the growth process. I think the longer we continue to run in this space, we'll probably do that more and more, as I think that's probably the right way to go for Web3 games.
Okay. So that's all of our written questions. We would love to entertain more questions in voice, but due to technical limitations, we will have to bank those for now. All right, so that wraps up our 5th weekly AMA. Even if we had a few technical difficulties, we were still able to answer questions. We were still able to get that alpha out, generate that hype. So how do you feel about this AMA, Aaron?
These are always fun. I appreciate everyone who asks questions. I appreciate the people coming up. Hopefully next week Discord doesn't shit the bed and we can do it kind of normally. Again, I'll poke Jason Citron just to give him some shit about it. Yeah, generally the teams head down 3 weeks away, less than 3 weeks away, I guess, by a day now. I'm excited to kind of show off the next Friday demo this Friday. Be on the lookout for it. I think people will be very, very excited to see the level of progress.
The community is definitely very excited. Everybody's been thinking so many things have already been shown in the demo. What's next? Is it breeding or what is it? They're all so excited. So yeah, I'm pretty sure that most of the community will be looking forward to Friday. So thank you, by the way, to everybody who's been supplying feedback towards the many community events that we've had over Discord and Twitter. Your feedback helps us to be better. I'm looking forward to our upcoming events and what you guys will think of them. We will post a recording of this AMA on our socials if you would like to give it a re-listen. Don't forget to share this with your friends and fellow Unicorn fam who couldn't make it. If you have more burning questions, feel free to reach out on our support channels, Mod Support, and Ask the Devs. This has been Sparkly Unicorn with co-host Witty Unicorn.
Hey, and this one's for the Ooh fan. Ooh, will?
Uwu. And text Stealthy Unicorn and Zealous Unicorn. Good morning and good night, Unicorn fam.
Ooh, woo!
Uwu. Thank you.